Alright. Hi, I'm Carmelo Vanucci. I'm doing the next part, the teaching screening evaluation in the project. So let's get this started with. Alright, sorry about that. Okay, as I said earlier, this is the teaching screening project part, and then the evaluation, and then finally how we analyze all of our stuff. How we got where we got. But we had already started with this is a pictorial representation of what we had already done up to this point to get to the teaching screening project. So we assess our community, ask questions relating to what the community needed in terms of higher prevalence rates, risk factors, correlations basically. We examined any existing protocols out there that were that we could use and glean off of before we started the data analysis part. So we looked at frameworks about how to go about solving our question, and then we analyzed the data using a framework that we had chosen, gained the knowledge. It's a cyclical cycle. Of course, this is going on kind of all at one time, and that's the first part. Let me go to the next slide. After that portion of it, then we designed the teaching project portion of it. Execute, which is basically we taught the elderly about how BMI is taken, why it's taken, the normal ranges for it. We taught them about risk factors of having a high BMI or increased body fat, causes for increased body fat, diet interventions that they could use to reduce their body fat, with examples of specific foods and healthy eating habits. And then lastly, we taught about the healthy exercises for their age range, which is 65 plus. And then we also evaluated our teaching project at the same time as part of the execution of it, and then we interpreted the feedback that we got from our teaching project, the actual execution part of it, and then we analyzed all that, the design phase, the execution phase, the interpretation phase, and then we came to just click to the next slide, but then we came to our conclusions. Let me stop this. Okay. So after we had done this part of it, because I'm back here now, then we moved on to the goals for each, and that was part of the design phase. And so this is our goals: to educate our citizens, body mass, pretty much everything I talked about a minute ago, but here they are. This is our nursing goals for the screening plan, which was to perform body mass index screens for the 65 plus in Canada. We also wanted to incorporate an optional multiphasic type screening for people that were outside of the BMI range. So if they were too heavy, we would offer them, blood pressure screening and get just a concise medical history on them, and then we'd give them a more accurate risk profile. How much this increased their risk having co-occurring factors. And that's what that's talking about. Back to that one. Okay, these are our short-term objectives. We wanted them to understand why the BMI is taken, what it actually means, BMI, and how it would impact their health having a increased outer range BMI, and we were only focused on outer range BMI numbers in excess, not underweight but overweight. So, then we talked about healthy diets, healthy exercise. We'll go over some more of this later on, and then other factors that contribute to obesity that they may not know about. We used a small informal group lecture, which is basically us standing there talking about the information to just disseminate the information so that they would understand, have a background knowledge. The return verbal understanding part of it, that was actually a Q&A afterwards, and it was some closed-ended questions and then also some open-ended questions if they had questions. And we'll go over that later on in the slides. We had a poster board. We gave them handouts. That's not on here, but we gave them handouts. And we did a demonstration of BMI and how it's calculated. This is just another slide about the screening, the non-invasive blood pressures. This is redundant. I've already talked about this again. The provide risk, individualized risk profile, which would be if they had high blood pressure, obese, increases their chance for cardiovascular disease, stuff like that. Real simple. We're not getting too technical here with their medical histories because we definitely don't want to go down that road too much, but we definitely can give them some information. And then the risk profiles also included the rationales, the reasons why they were at increased risk, how to reduce the risk, and then also the community resources that they could use to help reduce their risk, such as if they needed to lose weight and they had joint problems, tell them about the community pool that they could use to exercise in instead of not exercising at all. So just basically just making them aware of community resources. That's what that's talking about. Like a fool. This is the rationale for the reasons behind the way we taught what we taught. That's not a very good explanation. The rationales for the way we structured our teaching project. Because we're dealing with a 65 plus population, we use Knowles' adult learning theory. That was one of the theories. And this is just going over, we made sure that we didn't use all block letters in our handouts and poster board. We group learning instead of just single session, group sessions, which is one group session, to increase socialization. The problem solving learning is talking about, we wanted to link up their past lifestyle behaviors and how that affects their present health status, and then in turn that enables them to kind of do the problem solving themselves. Go back, rather than just giving them general information. I guess that's the way to put it. Instead of just generalizing, oh, your obese, it increases your chances of obesity. We might say that, God, I just lost my train of thought. Honestly, I don't know where I was going with that. Hold on one second. Oh, I'm kind of figured out what I was going with this. Basically, what I meant was, say somebody has arthritis and they're obese. They were obese beforehand, and now they have joint pain constantly. We're gonna tailor the teaching, because this is 65 plus. We want to make sure that they understand that being obese increases the likelihood for the falls and for the increased pain, and that losing the weight is going to decrease the pain and ultimately increase positive health effects instead of just saying, oh, being obese increases your chance for developing, let's just say, arthritis or doesn't help with the osteoporosis. We would just say, if you have this is in turn, if you lose the weight or if you fix the problem, it will benefit in this way towards your certain ailment. So exercising to lose weight for being obese will in turn help with controlling osteoporosis, arthritis type pain, and also when you lose the weight from the exercise and the dieting, you're also at less risk for developing other diseases, such as like cancer. So that's where I was going with that, and the rest of this that's what this slide is talking about. It's still not a very good explanation, but that's the best I can do, really, I guess. This is another slide about the reasons why we taught what we taught and how we taught it. We definitely avoided sensory overload, such as full audio-visual displays, and we just kept it real simple and comprehensible. Provide comfortable environments, and then make sure that people that have auditory problems sit in the front, people with visual impairment sit in the front, people with physical impairments. Make sure that they have enough. We accommodate for that. We didn't have any physical impairments there, but if we did, like say, if somebody had a wheelchair and we needed to teach them certain exercises, we would just need to do that in a space that would be conducive to them learning how to do certain exercises if they're wheelchair bound. And then this is the Q&A session, which I think was one of the best parts of it, because that's when you get to the nuts and bolts of actually teaching them. And unfortunately, I don't think we actually recorded this section of it, because we were worried about confidentiality type issues. We didn't want to, in case somebody said something that we felt would be like letting their information out. We didn't think it would be ethical to post that out. But we did have a Q&A session. That was probably the most beneficial. Unfortunately, we didn't record it now. I kind of regret that, but that's what it was. But basically, we asked a few questions, which there's another slide that shows the type of questions that we asked at the end. And then they gave us their answers, or what, not all answered, but some did. But then it also gave them a chance to ask questions to us, and that way we really got to get to the subject-centered type teaching instead of just giving a general overview. We did give a general overview in the video, but the Q&A was where we got down to the more subject, the more individual related type stuff to their certain elements or diseases. This is just talking about the handouts about the NIH recommendations that we gave them. This is the Erickson's. This is the other theory that we used. Uses stages of development, and that's what this talks about. This slide. Okay. Before we even started with the Teach Project, we gave the participants, the 65 plus participants, we gave them a survey, which we're going to go over in other slides to use. I think I said survey questionnaire, but so we could analyze. The rest of this slide is just talking about the scenario-based teaching that I've already mentioned. It's kind of another redundant slide. Sorry. This is just another kind of redundant Q&A demonstration. We demonstrated the BMI, calculated it for them, explained risk factors. Just another slide. And then this is talking about how we design the handouts, catering to the older population. We incorporate developmental, physical, cognitive factors in the handout design. Basically, talking about print size. We're going to go over in the later slides the reading scales. It's flesh and I can't remember the other, but it's a flesh scale and a smog scale. But it talks about reading comprehension, grade level, and this is just another slide of the planning process. I'm taking time here because this is going to be on YouTube, so I want people to be able to pause if they want to take a picture of it on their iPhone, anything like that, write it down, whatever they can, because you can't just copy paste or anything like that. I don't even think you can copy paste PowerPoints online anyway. But anyway, this is the actual example of how we would write out the information on the handouts. We didn't use a 12th grade. We used, I believe we used a 10th grade. I gotta look at it. I think it's on one of these slides after this. But this is how we use the Flesh Reading E-score, and that's basically saying that this type of narrative is a use the 12th grade. You gotta. Okay. This is another example. This would be the 6th to 7th grade level. That previous slide, it says the reading E-score is a 31. I think this is I didn't change this actually. This is the 10th grade. 10th grade. It's off. So, this would be the 6th to 7th grade format. And the smog scale is more attributable to why we chose, because that's really the syllable use, 3 or more syllables per sentence, and then use that more to develop our handout function for it. But that's going to be in some next slides. Let's go to those. And then this is an example of a 2nd to 3rd grade level. I don't think my explanations are too good, but I'm kind of not good at explaining myself and all of this. These are just specific examples. I used exercise examples just because I had them readily available. But this is how we would actually format it. These bullets are actually designed this way because for some reason, I guess they read it easier if it's not straight in line, but if they're just offset. And I thought that was real interesting. And you can see that everything is just real. It's just another example of post-board handouts. But I can see how it is easier because you can kind of follow where your transitions are. And then we just gave that to them. That's actually not my number. We didn't give them the real number. That's the other group partner. But this part comes in the Q&A session that we did. They could ask us stuff, and then we'd give them advice. This is methods of evaluations, which we did a lot of evaluating. We did a lot of post pre-project evaluation of ourselves. We did pre-evaluations of the participants before the teaching. We did a post-evaluation of the participants after the teaching, and we did a post-evaluation of ourselves after the project. So, and that way we were better able to kind of analyze our trajectory of how we were going to develop everything, and that whenever we chose on a certain development, if something else came up, because we used these evaluation methods throughout the planning process, we'd be able to go back and assess more easily and make changes if we needed to. So that's kind of where all that comes into. The evaluation of participants' self-assessment, pre and post, that was a Likert type 6-item test. Hold on. Actually, I am going to go forward because we can talk about that whenever we get to the actual. We put up examples on the PowerPoint for the actual scales and stuff like that. So I'm going to go forward and I'll just talk about each one of these as the PowerPoint comes up. So this is back to the reading levels and how we developed the handouts and poster board, and kind of how we developed the way we would speak to them. So the smog reading levels, that's just a way. There's a way to measure or use a framework in development when it has to do with language. And this is supposed to be number of words with 3 or more syllables. So 0 to 2 would be a reading grade level 4. We use 10th grade reading level 4 through 56. And this is the Flesch Reading E scores. So we use 10th grade and 50. I believe it was 52 something. It was. I don't really remember this actual score that we use now, honestly. But I know that we did use the grade level, 10th grade level. I don't remember the reading score. You know what? I just remembered. We used the college grade level because we were going to use the 10th grade because of the lower to average literacy rates in Camden, but because we knew who some of the participants were going to be in the actual teaching, well, we changed it to the college level, and that's where I'm getting confused at, because I knew that we had once done it 10th grade and then we changed it to college, because then it wouldn't be as ethical to say, oh, well, we're not going to change it now. But yeah, we changed it afterwards, and so that other slide was actually right. The first slide I said was wrong. The reading E score was like 31, I believe, but that actually was what we used, and I think it said 12th grade, but I think it was more than college level. Hold on, we're going to go back to that. Okay, this was the slide I was talking about where we said we used the college level, and it's not a 12th grade, and that was our score. So 31, college level, 31 score, and this is college 30. So a little over college level. Okay. This was the actual handout that we used for the pre and post self-assessments for the participants that came to our teaching project, and we used this 6-scale Likert, and you can see the way we developed it. We put the fully agreed as a 1, and then the fully disagree over here. So instead of like the fully agreed being over here, it's over here. So that way we don't just get somebody that just circles all at one time. We can throw out assessments where we just see them all. If they say fully disagree and we know them and we really think that they meant, maybe agree, it kind of helps us in determining that these are just going to be outliers that don't have any true correlation to what an actual finding would be. So that's why that is developed like that. And these are the questions that we ask on our scale. And this is pre and post. And then I think the next slide is going to be the actual change in these scores, the mean scores. So I'm going to leave this up for a little bit for people that just want to look at this, take a picture of it, or whatever, so that they can use it for. And this is not obesity specific. You can use this scale for any type of evaluation method. If you just wanted to do diet, or just exercise, or just teaching about even a specific thing such as, let's teach about colon cancer. You can do it as specific as that, or as general as our subject was. We'll go to the next slide now. Oh, these are the formulas that we used. We use formula 2 for the individual gains, and that's going to be on the next slide. We'll show you the gains, I believe. Hold on one second. Yeah. So this is the one, this formula, and it's a real simple. It's just their ratings before, their ratings after, minus 1 after their rating before, minus 1 times 100 gives us their individual gain. So when we tally all the gains up, then we can get a comparative self-assessment gain. We can compare the individual gains to get a comparative self-assessment gain. And that's what this one is. And this was actually developed by Ropoc, but they used it for evaluation of students in medical school somewhere. But it's a good formula. These are our actual findings after we evaluated the data. So we had a 55% increase in question 1. So they believed that their knowledge, our mean knowledge increase would have been 55% for question 1. And this is their perceived. We're not actually asking them, what is this? We're just saying, what do you think that you've learned more on this? And then that's what that's talking about. So we really don't know if they've actually learned more, but they perceived that they learned more. So they're perceiving, which in this case it's probably biased because, of course, we're getting graded and they know we're getting graded, so they don't want to mess this up, or they think that they don't want to mess it up for us. So these scores are probably not. Well, I know they're not actually probably true. So, but if you were in the future, like as a nurse, administrator, or something like that, needing to develop something in your workplace, you could use something like that. Possibly, it's just an option. But I guess it's always important to remember that this stuff is not always true. And in this case, I don't believe it is. But this is actually our self-assessment of our own perceived perceived knowledge, and we used the same. This doesn't have the Likert scale below it, but we did it the same way. 1 through 6. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. We circled each one for each question, and this was done pre-project. So basically, it was really done whenever, probably midway in the project, and we understand that our measurements are going to be biased too, but we wanted to develop something that could be used in other areas. We wanted to just develop something that could be applicable across domains. So, and it takes a lot of work to just develop something on your own. But this was also the skills domains, cognitive and affective. This type of format for developing it is also from Ropuck, the person that in the earlier slide. And then the next slide we're going to talk about. Oh, there's the formulas again. This is our assessment. So we have, and for some reason question 9 is not on there, but and these are our scores. And I just want to go back to I switched off of the PowerPoint for a second to show the full scale that we used for our pre and post self-assessments. And of course, and again, this is the pre-project, post-project self-assessment for ourselves, not for the participants, but for ourselves. We have the other one that's for our participants. Not on here. No, there it is. That's the one for our participants. And you can see how that one's worded. I think the other slide showed it. But the wording also, I wanted to point this out too. The wording is what you want to concentrate on, how you word it, or who you're trying to evaluate. That's another important part. And then this is how we worded ours. This is for us. So you can see that the wording is definitely relational to who you're trying to evaluate. So we would not, well, I guess you can give this to them, but we weren't trying to get like a skills domain and all this. This is that would have been kind of too hard on them. I don't think one little short lecture they would have been able to really understand all of it. And this is for us. And then that's question 9 that wasn't on that slide. And this is what we actually gave out, because we wanted to make sure that we didn't break any ethics during our project. That's always important. And I'm going to go and talk about the, well, here is this is the reference for the formulas, and pretty much a lot of the development of the scales was from this specific reference. And then this is another reference that we used for the evaluation part of it. And I'm going to go to this one over here. This was, I think, more important for us in developing the project, because this one is more so we can give a quantitative, more of a quantitative or descriptive statistic in our evaluation of ourselves, and the other one is for the participants and how we could more quantitatively evaluate it, instead of saying, oh, they said they learned something, or oh, it's all hearsay. But this is more quantitative, I guess. Of course, it's all biased and not really reliable and accurate and precise and all those good words. But it's important to learn, maybe, or have like something to work off of for future administrative work or any kind of development in your workplace. Especially because these things may get you money for your workplace. If you work in a unit and you're the unit manager, develop cool things like that, you might get more money. I don't know. Usually not. They usually don't do that. Money. Anyways, I'm going back to this one, this scale now. This was the scale that we used pre-project and post-project also. And I was going to quantify it, but really it was more of a descriptive statistic, and I just didn't want to go through the whole process because the changes weren't significant. And what I mean by significance is that we were pretty much close on all these, accurate on all these answers that we gave pre-project and post-project. So it would have been a waste of time to go through the whole quantization part of it, especially because it was more of a descriptive type measure. But we asked these questions so that we understood what each of us knew prior to designing the teaching project. And so if we divvy up responsibilities, we want to make sure that we're all kind of on the same page with stuff. So we answered these questions pre-project, reviewed our answers collectively. So each of us got together with our answers, and we definitely, there is no criticism. We just want to know what each of us knows, and then we went on to the NIH, National Institutes of Health website with their recommendations, and we just compared our answers to their recommendations, and then we decided on a scale. We just used 1, 2, and 3. 1 was accurate, 2 was somewhat accurate, 3 would have been not accurate, and that's how we would have done it. So it would just been like something like that. If this was me, Carmelo, and I was answering these, and then we all reviewed it and compared it to the NIH recommendations. And I answered the question, but I was not accurate at all, so that would be a 3. And then we'd go to the next one, and we all look at my answers, and then we'd all compare those answers to the NIH recommendations, and then we'd all say, well, I think you were this, I think you were that. Shauna might say, oh, I think you were a 3, or Michael might say, oh, I think you were 1, and then I think I'm my answer would maybe been a 2. Well, that's where you gotta hash it out. But if there's a 2 and a 3, then it's gotta be a 3, because if it's a negative, it leans negative basically. So if there's a somewhat accurate and an inaccurate, it's going to be inaccurate. The answer is going to be inaccurate. If there is an accurate and an accurate and then an inaccurate, it's still going to be then it's going to be accurate. So I really should have done more on this to demonstrate how to actually do it, and I can if people want, so they could use it in their workplace maybe. But that's how you would want to rate these. That's one of the ways you would want to rate these. And I believe the technique that they call it, and they use expert review process and research, they call it a Delphi technique. And that's basically just saying that experts, a panel of experts, review things and give it a rating or something like that. So that way they can turn something descriptive into something more quantitative. Okay. And this is just a slide of the scale I was just talking about. This is the Q&A format that we use. So these were the questions, or some of the questions that we asked, of course, and then we followed up with the open-ended questions, so we could gain more knowledge and give them better recommendations that would be individualized. And I still regret that we didn't record that, because that was probably the best part of the teaching project, because it is so hard to just you want to verbatim teach somebody something. Of course, it's that for people, I know for myself, I don't really learn that way. I learn by asking a lot of questions, and I think that's the most important part of the teaching project that we did and made a change to, was that Q&A session. This is just a pictorial representation of how all of it overlap post teaching project. So we observed our results, and we observed our Q&A session, and then we just reviewed basically the whole process again. Except for the community assessment part of it, we just analyzed what we observed during our teaching project, what we think we could have done differently, what we think that we left out, what changes that we would have made, and that's where that would come in. So then we interpret the changes that we could have made. So that's where that comes in. And this is also kind of a way that you would do something if you wanted to make a change in your workplace, kind of nursing research type stuff. And it can be small pilot stuff too. It doesn't have to be something huge. This slide's out of order. I'll go back to that slide. This is the process of how we actually got our information. So we wanted to know that the information that we were receiving was kind of the right information, and we wanted to use a lot of sources of information input. We didn't just want to use, maybe just an education type database. Maybe we want to use a clinical type database, or a laboratory type database, or a proprietary type database, a private industry type database, or a public industry type database. And so that's how we got more information about how we would develop our teaching and analyzation specific to the 65 plus population. And we just used a topic modeling vector type of deal. And that's what this goes over. So don't worry about the K-means algorithm. You can look it up. You can email me if you have a question about it. But we wanted to group, do a search and group each important aspect by topic. So diet, obesity, exercise. That's how it would have been grouped. So each one would have just been diet, and then you would have had a subtopic grouping of types of diets, and then you'd have a subtopic grouping of diet foods in those diets, and that's basically what that means. People do that internally a lot, but this is just an external way of representing that. And then the term vector and all this, I hate terms like this because it scares people away. But it's